If you're looking at installing solar energy, undoubtedly you're looking at some big numbers. These are not small projects. I've gone through the same thing with my homes. To start this company and this channel, I designed and renovated 2 full fix and flip net zero homes where efficiency and solar powered the whole house and the electric car 100%. It's been a few years now and I've got 2 full years of solar energy production on 2 net zero homes that I renovated, and I wanted to show you what the actual production numbers look like as compared with the typical and most popular software used that so many solar companies are using to show you on these proposals on what solar is actually going to produce. So let's get into it. My name is Aaron Shine and I'm the founder of Attainable Home, where we combine affordable real estate with practical sustainability to improve your wealth and well-being. So as mentioned, we've got about 2 full years of energy production for 2 of these net zero homes. Both homes were in Florida. The first one was in Southwest Florida in the Cape Coral Fort Myers area, and the second one was in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's the Tampa Bay area. And I'll go through some charts and data, then we've got some graphs, and I'll go through the final numbers on each solar project so you can see what the ROI looks like, what I paid, and all the good stuff. And also just a quick note on the philosophy of going after both projects. I am big into energy efficiency, and my background is actually in real estate and finance, even though I've been in sustainability my whole career. So I love combining all of those. And what that really means is that I go after low-hanging fruit first with energy efficiency, and you actually do solar energy last. And what that really means is that you can have a solar energy system that's 2 or 3 times smaller than if you just looked at your current bill and slapped a solar system up there that tries to cover your current bill. Oftentimes you'll just run out of roof space, or you're going to be looking at tens of thousands of dollars more than if you did some low-hanging fruit energy efficiency work first. So I just want to make that note. That's what I did on these 2 homes. So with that philosophy in mind for both houses, I used a bit of energy modeling and just some spreadsheet calculations that assumed what the whole house and the electric car might use in electricity for the whole year, and then kind of reverse engineered the solar system based on that. So let's jump into the first home and we can start comparing the data. As mentioned, this was an 1,800 square foot 3-2 home built in 1984. And actually one of the biggest reasons I bought it was because it had an amazing south-facing roof with more than enough space to get to net zero, even if I had miscalculated with a lot of errors. So it was perfectly angled about 23, 24 degree pitch. It was angled 180 degrees south, and you really can't get much better, especially because there was no shading and no trees on the south side, so it would have full sun all year round. The calculations showed that I would need about a 9.2 or 9.3 kW system, and I went to go get quotes. And side note on just getting quotes and the install side, that's a whole other beast to tackle, but I've actually done that in other videos, and you can watch the install video. It may show up automatically for you after this one anyway, but it's on the channel. Long story short, I found a good company locally. They've been around since 2003, great group of people, great price, and just a solid company to work with. And we went with Mission solar panels along with the Enphase IQ7 Plus microinverters at the time. The install was done September of 2020, and fast forward to now, you can see that we've got quite a lot of data. I have since sold the house because it was actually a short-term rental, but I was able to go back through my emails and collect all the kilowatt hour data for each month when I had access to it. And you can see on the left side in yellow, there are a few missing numbers. The first batch in the middle there, I think the renter actually requested that I move the account over to them while they were living there because they were really into solar and also had an EV, so they wanted to see the data. But then later in 2022 down there, you can see that I actually lost power because the home was hit by Hurricane Ian, and we had no power for 2 weeks. And then after the power came back on, the solar panels were perfectly fine. Everything started working again, which was amazing in itself. But for some reason, the reporting had stopped with Enphase. Now, the second column in blue shows PV watts, and that's actually the background. That's the NREL government software used by so many solar companies and proposals to design for solar system and what it might actually produce. So what I did was take the full year of PV watts assumed power production and then entered the month in there corresponding to what I actually used. And because I had a few months missing in there, we actually didn't have the full year. But what was kind of cool to figure out For the months that I had actual numbers versus the software numbers, I was able to take the average difference all added up, and you can see in the actual versus PV watch percentage column there towards the right, what the actual month difference was between the software and the actual produced. And to my pleasant surprise, actually, you can see on the far right column, for more or less 2 years of data where I had the software and the actual production numbers, the difference was only 242 kilowatt hours over the entire period, which is less than 1% difference from the software to the actual produced numbers. So what that basically means is, for this system in this house in particular, for whatever reason, there are a lot of variables, that the software, PV watts, was incredibly accurate in relation to what the system actually produced, which is pretty awesome. And why it's a big deal is because there are in actuality so many variables that go into a solar install system as compared to just software on the computer. And I made a list of just things that I could think of off the top of my head that can affect solar production in actuality. And one is the actual panel output times however many panels you have in relation to what the spec sheet says or what the software says. Microinverter performance. Microinverters are individual little inverters that go under every single panel. So if you have 20 panels, in my case I had 24, you have 24 panels and 24 inverters, and they could all be performing differently based on all kinds of things. You have clouds, storms, weather, snow, shading, trees, other houses, power lines. Over the years, trees will grow, branches will grow into the sun. They could block different panels over time. That's a big deal there. There's dirt, there's birds sitting on them. We know what else they produce. Rainfall or lack of, because rainfall and the water clean panels naturally, so the dirtier a panel is, the lower it's going to produce. And then there's power outages. The systems go down by law usually, or by code, to, they say, protect the line workers. So when the power lines are down, your solar system is also down. It's not going to produce. There's tilt and orientation accuracy of the design versus actual. And then there's just the software itself, which could be a crapshoot. If not designed correctly, it's going to throw all the numbers off. So with this information, it's basically showing that you can be confident in the software data. And what I did for the missing months in the middle column there in bold was we can now fill in the data with the PV watts numbers, because we know it's going to shake out over a year or two period to be within a 1% margin. So I was able to apply the software numbers, and then we could come up with a full yearly production and be pretty confident that that's what would actually be produced. So now with all of our data, you can see up at the top right, I've got full 2021 and 2022 year numbers. So there was the actual kilowatt hour produced number for the year, and then I could adjust it by just 1% less, as we talked about, and come up with the adjusted kilowatt hours produced from the whole system for each year. And you can see how similar they are. And I've covered the install and the cost and the whole process in another video again, but I'll just quickly run through the numbers since we have the production numbers here. So the system cost is $21,547. At the time, there was a 26% tax credit, so net was about $16,000, the third line item there on the right. In the yearly kilowatt hour production, I actually took the average of the 2 years there, and at the time the kilowatt hour rate was about 13 cents. Now, I mean, with inflation, it's probably up at 15, 16 cents, but the nice thing with solar is that you lock in day one at the lower rate, and so that's what we run the numbers at. So with 13 cents at 14,788 kilowatt hours produced per year, that makes about $1,922 worth of electricity per year. Now the thing is, with net metering, I did not go with batteries because the net metering agreement was good in the area, which is basically a 1-for-1 retail rate credit that you get. And in which case, yes, we have hurricanes. The power was out for 2 weeks, which is a huge deal for some people. But batteries can, double the cost of the system easily sometimes, and it just wasn't worth it. And it makes the numbers and the ROI that much worse. So I decided not to go batteries. This was an affordable net zero home in general, and in reality, the power won't be out for that long on an ongoing kind of year-to-year basis. So I just wanted to mention that part because the laws and the utility agreements for net metering and batteries and the rate at which they sell you the power back and everything, it can vary wildly now around the country. So you really have to look into that and make sure the numbers work for you based on your location. But in my case at the time, even though there was a one-to-one retail rate, all these companies typically have just a meter or minimum charge on the monthly bill, so they get something from you for hooking up the power and delivering solar. And you can see that number there. It's $21.69 a month. In this case, it was LCEC, that was a utility down in Southwest Florida. But the minimum monthly bill fee was $21.69 a month, which adds up to $260 per year. And you have to subtract that number from your overall production to get your real ROI and your real energy savings. So you can see that the net yearly savings after minimum bill fee was $1,662 per year. And when you divide that number into the net cost above of about $16,000, it's just over a 10% ROI and a payback of 9.6 years. So to better visualize the data, I made the 2 years of production, and this is the year 2021. Because we know we're only within 1%, that red circle there is where the renters had access and I didn't. I wasn't getting the emails. But since we know we're on 1% accuracy, you can see the solar production through the year. And again, this is in Florida. You can see that the highest production months are actually in the spring and not the summer. That was a little surprising to me, but it kind of makes sense based on the tilt of the roof at about, I think, 23, 24 degrees. Also, panels work better when they're colder, to my understanding, because they are kind of computers, they're made of silicon, and the cooler the panels are, the higher they produce, so maybe that factors in. But it's a pretty flat line all the way across, and maybe that's just because it was a really ideally designed system. It was perfectly south-facing with a good tilt, so you catch the sun, which is higher up in the summer and lower in the winter, going across the sky. And it's a pretty even distribution. And similarly, this is the year 2022 when we have more data through the year, but you can see that the actual production are the yellow lines and the designed production per the PV Watt software is in the blue. And it's pretty similar. I mean, some months will be higher than others as compared with the software, but again, it all evens out within about 1%. In the red circle there, you can see that's when Hurricane Ian hit the home, power went down, and then we just didn't get more data after that, even though the solar panels came back on and were working fine. And now to jump into the second home, this was up in the Tampa Bay area. It was 1,140 square feet, 3.2, built in the 50s, a brick home, where this is a much bigger renovation overall, and it had some different characteristics to the house. It had a gable roof going east and west with a huge oak tree on the south side, so I had to try to account for some shading. With similar calculations as the first house, I arrived at a 7.6 kW system, went through the whole quoting process, and found a great company to work with out of Orlando. And we went with the Q-Cell 380 watt panels and the same Enphase IQ7 Plus microinverter system. And on this system, microinverters were even more important because of the shading factor. And you can see the numbers. I've done them similar to the first house. I was missing a few months there, and I don't know why that we're missing the actual data in the emails. I looked through what I could, but I didn't have actuals for some of the months. But we have more months of actual data, and also we have the PV watts. And what's different about this is that PV watts, since I decided to put 6 panels on the east side away from the tree towards the north end of the house, and 14 panels on the west side, you actually have to run 2 different calculations because it's essentially 2 different systems pointing 2 different directions. And so the second and third column are the west and east array, and I had to add them up in the fourth column for the PV watts total, and that shows us the total calculated estimated production per month. And when I went through all the numbers here and compared all the actual to the software numbers, or the east and west array in the software, that you can see that we're still within 5%. And this is still very good because that huge oak tree on the south side blocks a lot of sun in the morning and also through the winter when the sun is lower in the sky. So I was actually pleasantly surprised that it's less than 5% deviation from the software, even in this case where there's an east and west facing array and with a ton of shading. And at the time of this recording, I have not done the full quoting and install project video for the second net zero home, but stay tuned for that into the future. So for the system costs on this one, it's a little bit less than the first one. It's a smaller home. The energy demands are less. I did a lot of the same energy efficiency work, and the tax credit's a little bit bigger for 2022 versus 2021, which is nice. It's at 30%, and it's still at 30%, I believe, going to the year 2032 through the Inflation Reduction Act, and that's with no cap, just so you're aware of that. But the net cost on this one was pretty affordable, $11,704. I adjusted the kilowatt hour production for the months missing by that 4.52%. and then average them. So our yearly production is 10,438 kilowatt hours. The kilowatt hour rate is higher up there, and it was a year later, and it was jumping up through the years there, so we're at 16 cents. The yearly production subtotal or gross would be $1,670. Now, Duke Energy there, they keep raising their minimum bill fee, but at the time it was $35.45 a month just to hook up and just to do net metering. Luckily, it was a 1-for-1 credit retail rate still, but you can see that I still had to pay $425 per year, even though I was completely net zero, so the utility company still gets their money. We have to subtract this $425 from the $1,670 above, and the net total production number is $1,244 per year roughly, which comes in at still a 10.6% ROI and a 9.4-year payback. Now, depending who's watching, you might have an opinion on the payback and the ROI numbers, but just to put into perspective, I personally love solar for not only going net zero and the environmental benefits of this over time, but you're locking in your electric rate. A 10% nearly risk-free ROI rivals the stock market, as sure beats bonds over time or treasuries or typically anything much more volatile in terms of investments. But getting back to the second project, here's 2022, and the yellow is the actual solar produced, and the blue is the designed software estimated production. And it kind of slopes downward through the year, and that makes a lot of sense because the huge oak tree on sort of the southeast side of the home will have a lot of shading, and I tried to account for this on the design as much as possible, but there's no way around it as the sun gets lower in the sky towards the end of the year. And here's the year 2023. For some reason, I don't have the first couple of months, but we know that the designed is very close to the actual. But for the rest of the year, you can see we have real numbers. And when I did this visual chart, I could see that November, December, most likely January, February, that big tree in the southeast corner of the yard is probably where the software fell short, and that's my own design. We won't call it a mistake because it's still within 5%, but knowing now and going forward, I can account for much more shading percentage of the overall system for those winter months. I think that's a big chunk of that 5% discrepancy between actual and design for the months where I had real data. And there's still so much to share about all these numbers in terms of ROI, investments, production versus design, and everything else. I still have the second home, and I'm monitoring that energy production ongoing. That's a nice net zero rental. And look out for similar videos in the future. We've already got a lot on the channel related to efficiency, net zero, electrification, real estate investing, and everything that goes around this topic. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.